All right, we are good to go. Folks, just happy Sunday and all that jazz. Um, Today we are joined by, I want to say, it's Flinty, right?
Yep, that's the one.
Okay, I was gonna make sure I want to say that right. I don't want to call you something else. But
All good.
uh, just Flint, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, just hit the ground
Yeah,
running.
absolutely. 100%. So my name is Flint or Flinty. I've been a Milsim player now for probably just over a decade. I am the lead developer and owner of a platform called Milsim.io. And previously before that, Unit Commander, a name that many communities may be aware of. Um, yeah, so should we get started?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start. It's kind of let's take a trip down memory lane real quick. What got you into Milsim? Like, what piqued your interest?
For
Just like
sure.
started out what was your first unit?
So I, technically speaking, didn't really get into Milsim first. Like many, I grew up with Arma 2 Daisy Epoch YouTube videos being just bombarded at me, and I absolutely loved it. Um, I started off with that, and I obviously knew it was Arma 2. And then Arma 3 came out very briefly afterwards, certainly in the beta phase. And I picked it up. I didn't really play it for the first year or two it was out. And I remember sort of like thinking, this might be kind of fun to play. So I put a post out on the Steam forums because that was like the way to go back in the day. I don't know if it still is. And a community called, I think it was Delta Company, ran by an American. His name escapes me though. And I played there for 2 to 3 months, and really it was learning the basics of Arma 3. Like I didn't really know too much about it at all. At the end of the day, I was only a kid at the time. Um, I remember being like really confused by the medical systems at the time. I think it was called AGM, maybe. Perhaps you remember that better than I do. One of the sort of early predecessors to ES3.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's where I started at, and I remember sort of briefly after going to one of the bigger British Milsim units. Afterwards, called 40 Commando, and I think it was at the time ran by a guy called Porter, although I think he has been long gone from the Milsim community. Because that would have been about 9 years ago now, at least. And this was all sort of before Arma 3 became really mainstream as well. So yeah, that's sort of where I started out with Milsim. I say I probably stayed active within the Milsim communities myself for maybe another 7 years after that. I only really sort of started to pull out 2 to 3 years ago now, just with commitments with Unit Commander and honestly real life just getting in the way.
All right. Um, Brought up unit commander. Can you go into like just details like what that was? Like what purpose was it?
Yeah, of course. So Unit Commander was technically still is, it's still live, a suite of community management tools for Milsim communities. So it kind of was birthed out of necessity, I want to say. So I had just started my university degree, and this was back in 2020. So we're coming up on the 6 year mark of me doing this work. And 2020 was a pretty horrendous year, I think, for most people. I mean, obviously with the COVID-19 lockdowns and what have you, it was pretty grim. And after the college semester ended, I was sort of left quite idle. I mean, obviously, I couldn't go out to see my friends. I was quite limited in what I could do. So I put an ad out on the Steam forums again, advertising web development services, and a community called, I think it was First Lancashire Regiment. It was a British Milsim at the time. They wanted a website where their members could like sign in, they could like give them ranks, awards, that kind of thing. And I took it up for honestly a horrendously small sum of money at the time. Um, but I did it more so for the enjoyment and sort of the learning experience of it all. As a first year computer science student, I was feeling dangerous, armed armed with about a year's worth of programming experience. So I sort of got into it, and that community, like many Arma communities, quite quickly shut down before the website was finished. But I decided to keep going with it. Needed to name it, And I figured, well, who's this for? Well, it's for unit commanders, and hence the name. So that started what ended up being quite a long obsession for me. Um, so we originally were basically right at the start, there was no word of mouth, there was no reputation there with the services that I was providing or anything like that. So it basically ended up with me messaging and joining community discords and like speaking to the unit COs every single time to see if this was something they'd be interested in. And at the time, it was super limited functionality. I think there was the ability to assign ranks to profiles, awards, qualifications, subunits, like so squads, platoon headquarters, that kind of thing, and then positions within the unit, so like rifleman or perhaps you're an S1 clerk, something like that. And there was maybe very early versions of the event system that we have today, although nowhere near as flushed out. And it involved me sort of like manually speaking to these communities, getting them onboarded, and I spent, I want to say, the first 2.5 years of unit commander doing that, personally reaching out to every single unit CO I could find and finding out what the pain points were with running their communities. And this was something I had my own experience with. Back when I was like really, I guess, full time running Milsims, playing in them, running my own communities, my biggest pain point was having to do everything with Google Sheets. Something many unit CEOs will be
Fuck
aware of.
the fucking
Yeah,
Microsoft Excel doc sheets and shit. Fuck that.
yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You'd have like a master roster of every single player, their Steam IDs.
Oh
If you
well,
were lucky, there was a fancy attendance sheet there as well.
we had
And that
more.
was, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we have more than enough experience with that shit.
Yeah, so I mean that's really where sort of it came from. That's where the inspiration was. I hated it. I wanted to make it a little bit easier and honestly even just a little bit better to look at because the amount of hours I have spent burning my eyeballs at 2 in the morning with like a very bright Excel sheet. It was awful. So that's sort of like why Unit Commander was created. And over the years we expanded the functionality, sort of integrating with Discord and everything else that sort of made us quite well known. The application system, our attendance analytics, you name it. It was feedback from unit COs and from my own experience. It was the kind of project that was for the community, but also by the community, because at the end of the day, this wouldn't really be where it is today without every single Arma player. Um, so yeah, I'd say about a year ago, I started having thoughts. So Unit Commander by itself was very ingrained in the Arma 3 community. I mean, if you were to have a look at our site now, there was, I think, over 700 registered communities and 15,000 users, which is a substantial amount of people, particularly for a niche that is Arma and at the time a little bit Arma Reforger as well. So I wanted to, I guess, broaden the horizons a little bit, see if we could get away from just the very strict niche of community management tools and get more ingrained into the Milsim space as a whole, sort of organizing larger scale events, social media integrations, really just sort of trying to tie Milsim as a wider community together. Because, as I'm sure you know, Arma 3, while it is a fantastic game, its player base is slowly draining off year by year. The amount of people who play Milsim now is not the same as it was 5 years ago.
Right.
And they're moving on to games like Reforger, and as they should ultimately. I mean, that's where it's headed, and that's no bad thing. But it's about trying to keep those players together and giving them a central place for every community they've played in. It's about giving community managers a place for them to organize their communities, whether that's personnel docs, their events, you name it. That's what milsim.io wants to be. And yeah, obviously we released it about 6 weeks ago now, I think. And we're obviously going to be sunsetting the unit commander service in, I think, about a month today, exactly. So yeah, that'll be about 6 years of really hard work in the unit commander system, and hopefully Milsim.io turns out to be something even better than that.
Now is the is Arma 3 the only game and platform or game that you guys would pretty much like have units from, or is there like are there units from like other
So
games like War of Rights, or that
yeah, yeah.
pass?
So Unit Commander itself was predominantly focused on Arma 3, which is sort of like what inspired the rebrand. Because we started to see more Arma Reforger communities creep into it as well. So Milsim.io at the moment is focused on four main tranches. Arma 3, obviously being our key sort of historic set of like core communities, 101st Airborne, 6th Airborne Division, 171st Combat Brigade, the communities that have been
Actually,
with us for nearly the entire 6 years. That's what Arma 3 is.
I
We
actually
also
seen
have Arma Reforger, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
I actually seen that. I joined the Discord. It's like I was kind of surprised to see the 101st Airborne unit that does the whole Vietnam shit. Cause I know I seen them on X plenty of times posting like what they do and whatnot.
Yeah, so 101st has been with us pretty much since the start now. Their unit CEO Mitchell has probably been one of the greatest supporters of Unit Commander. I couldn't thank him enough for everything he's done. We haven't had a completely smooth journey, shall we say. There was the great data loss of 2023, as I coined it. We had a pretty significant fault with one of our servers, which hosted all the data, and we lost an awful lot of stuff. And nobody would have blamed 101st or any of the other communities for skipping out and moving to other platforms, or even back to Google Sheets. But they stuck with us, and that's they are, for as far as I'm concerned, my premier community of Milsim.io and previously Unit Commander. But sort of back to what you were saying, we absolutely focus on other games now. So Arma 3, Armor Forger, Squad, and DCS are our main targets right now. But we're obviously going to be expanding that out in the future as and where demand appears, so to speak.
Right. But like I'm sure as you aware that like there's you got besides from Milsim.io, you got group, you got a website called like Milsim Units. We did an interview with him a few episodes back. What exactly? Like, what sets you apart from them? Like, uh,
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to John a couple of times now, and I would say that in terms of what our focuses are, we are partially aligned, I think, in what we do, but we are also quite different in terms of where we're aiming for, I think. Obviously, I can't speak to his intents or anything like that, but Milsim.io has always been about making things centralized. Um, so I think, obviously, with Milsim Units, to the best of my understanding, that is predominantly an advertisement and listing site. And while we offer that platform ourselves, I'd say the bulk of our functionality comes from the community management tools at the moment. And obviously, we're expanding that in the future as well to other bits and pieces. But I would say we're aligned, but we're certainly more focused on the community management side of things in providing the onboarding tools for new players. The event stuff is honestly our biggest thing in terms of our differentiator, I would say.
right. So pretty much like two sides of a different coin, or two sides of the
Yeah, I
same
would
coin.
say, yeah, exactly that. I mean, I think whenever players come to find communities, yeah, they can do it through Milsim units. They can do it through Milsim.io as well. Um, but ultimately, if the community like 101st or 6th Airborne is using Milsim.io, they end up with us anyway. Um, so, I think where we want to go is we want to build up that massive directory of Milsim units so that players can help find or can be helped finding their next Milsim community.
You mentioned that DCS was one of the games you guys are looking for. Does that actually have a Milsim community?
Yeah. So, well, we've been doing a bit of digging around. I personally have never played DCS. I can never quite get the headspace for it. But from what we understand, there's plenty of virtual fighter wings out there who are organized. They have dedicated event nights, and those are the people we want to speak to. We want to reach out to, and if anybody is listening to this and you are part of a DCS community, reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. Um, Ultimately, it's something new for us. I have no doubt there will be different requirements or different things they want to see compared to an Arma community, and I think that's part of the excitement of it for myself and the team. It's we've been working with the Arma communities for a while. We're really ingrained, and we know what makes a community work. But DCS is a whole new beast for us.
Um, in like about a month, unit commanders can be shut down. There any more like updates coming up for Milsim IO?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, just before we sat down, I was working on the next update. So I've coined it Milsim Comms. And the main focus here is going to be, as the update title suggests, communications. So one of our community members identified that there is the opportunity for players to sign up to a community, and there's no real way of a community reaching out to them if they don't know who they are. So what we've observed over the years is when a new player wants to join a community, they tend to go to the Discord first, as I'm sure you know yourself. And from there, what happens is communities will have players go sign up on milsim.io and fill out the application and what have you there. But we're aiming to make that a more seamless experience to happen from the website itself. So there's going to be a messaging system that comes along with that. There is going to be new ways for communities to tag their specific recruiters within the community and display those on their individual page for people to message and reach out to if they've got questions. There's going to be new ways for players to join a community as well. So the application at the moment is all set on a dedicated C2 panel, which is the community management tools. We intend on providing sort of a few more mediums for that. And we also have a couple of other bits as well. So one thing I always wanted to do with Unit Commander was public milsim profiles. So someone like me who has been around in the milsim scene for a number of years has played with 7 or 8 different major communities, held different titles and positions. It's about having a record of that. Certainly one of the questions I see reoccurring on applications is what communities were you part of previously? And I'm sure that's something you've been asked as well yourself. So basically, the intent of public profiles is to allow players to showcase where they've been before, any other communities they're playing with right now, and that will go towards effectively a new system where we're trying to match communities to players. At the moment, the milsim.io site is very channeled towards players going to communities, but we also want to flip that where communities go to players as well. And that'll be through players setting the looking for community status on their profile, and communities will get shown that, and they'll have the opportunity to message them and vice versa. And I think that's sort of the main crux of it is enabling that two-way communication so that it's not just players going to communities. Communities should be able to go to players as well.
So it'll be like a broad advertise, like, hey, we think you'd be interested in this, and or something like that.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, if you look at the Steam forums for Arma 3, at the minute there is a looking for a community subforum where players will post, hey, like I'm however old, I want to play in these types of communities and I'm free on these types of days. And that's the kind of direction we want to go, where communities will then message that person and say, hey, I'm with 101st or I'm with 6th Airborne. I think you might be a good fit.
Okay. Shit. So yeah, I guess we're doing a stream on this Sunday. I didn't really think about much questions.
You're all good. So you've obviously, I'm getting the impression you've been around in the milsim scene for quite a while as well. Um, whereabouts have you played previously?
Like what games?
Well, games or if you've played in the Arma 3 Milsim scene, have you played with any of the sort of bigger name communities that I might have heard of?
Uh, well, we mainly started on like whole uh, battlefield side of the Milsim house, and anyone who watches could tell you how chaotic that shit was, especially back in like 15, 16. Um, and of course, like I tried playing Armor 3, like I kicking around with it, and like I'm not sure if you called it campaign, where the hell it was, but I could never get the controls, the keybinds, all that shit down. So like I ended up just
Yeah, there's a
can't.
lot of them.
Yeah. So like of course
So,
from Battlefield, like you Battlefield 4, and, yeah, one, which BF1 community was actually pretty interesting.
well, I was about to ask that. Like, is Battlefield Milsim still a big thing? I mean, I know obviously the
It
franchise has changed quite a lot.
it's still a thing. With BF6, how slow it is, like people are adjusting to like, after each update, they're having to run like custom servers. I mean, you have people who build servers.
Yeah.
Fucking, I just saw Nero. Nero's comment. What's up? Um, now I just do a monkey wrench in my train of thoughts. But what the hell was I saying?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of Battlefield, I suppose, like, is there still like Milsim communities out and about? Like, are they active?
They're, they're acted to a degree. Um,
Hmm.
we know there's the Battlefield Milsim used to be on Line app, and each unit had their own little line chat, and the main CC
Yeah,
would be for uh, unit leaders, COs, XOs, and maybe like somewhere between 1 to 4 reps. Maybe I think they had like only 4 people from a unit. So,
yeah.
but then everyone moved to Discord because fuckers keep bringing like people having like their alt accounts coming in there and nuking
Yeah.
the line app. Yeah,
Oh man,
Nero, it's been a minute.
you probably got to avoid the whole TeamSpeak era. So if you've never used it, TeamSpeak is, I guess, a more corporate version of Discord. And I know it's changed a lot in recent years, but back in the early to mid 2010s, it was like just a super bland, super corporate system. But for Arma 3, it was basically a requirement because the mods we had used for like radios and stuff, so Task Force Arrowhead Radio, Echo 2, those were like the only system, like TeamSpeak was the only system that would be able to like integrate with those mods. And so everybody had to have it, but it was awful stuff. And you'd have people joining on alt accounts every single day after you'd banned them from a TeamSpeak for like whatever reason. It was awful. So I have another question for you actually. I know this is kind of role reversed.
Alright, go ahead.
um, so I'm obviously building Milsim.io with the intent of appealing to the wider Milsim community. If there was one thing you would like to see appear on a site like this, what would it be?
Shit, I don't even know where to fucking begin. Wasn't even expecting that fucking kind of question.
Well, I mean, it's always a good opportunity to find out what actual Milsim players and folks like yourself want from these types of systems. You've obviously spoken to Milsim units now, and you've spoken to us, so you're not completely unaware of these systems.
Possibly like to streamline and make it simple for those who are like going through the website trying to find like games. Like you have just maybe a drop down menus. Like what game are you looking for? This one. Here's the drop down list of, like units that are on that game, and like it could be units that be like a unit that has a group for Arma, and it's like they have another. a group that's like plays on War of Rights or Holdfast.
Yeah.
It's like so you see them like different. You click on DCS, War of Rights, Battlefield, and you can see like the same unit. It's like okay, they expanded to different games. That's like something
Yeah.
simple like that.
I mean that's basically what we do. I mean, we've got a page, and I'll link it to you. Yep, there it is in the chat. I mean, that's a full list of all the games we support at the minute. And you're able to go in there and see all the communities for each game. So, I mean, Arma 3 is our most populated at the moment.
Right?
And that should sort of give you a good idea.
I'll have to check that out here in a little bit. Right.
Absolutely.
Troy, with Milsim IO just starting, how far do you like how far are you gonna is this gonna go?
It's going to go until I'm in the grave. No, in all seriousness, it's always been a demand thing. If the Milsim community ever reaches a stage where isn't the way it goes anymore, then you know what, I will hang up the hat. But I'll have had a good run at it, and at the end of the day, this has always been for my own enjoyment. So we'll just see how it goes. At the end of the day, this is a service, and people can pay for it, and that helps me, and it allows me to work on updates and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I've got no intentions of ever closing down. We're still speeding up, and I'm liking the way the next 2 years are looking for us. And certainly in the next 5 years, I can see us being even further ahead than Unit Commander was in terms of how many communities we have and how many players we have.
Right. The if someone uses the Milsim IO so they want to find a unit. Is there a
Yep.
link to the unit's Discord?
Yes, there is indeed. So every community has the option of adding in their own personal website as a link, as well as their Discord invite URL. And certain communities as well will have the option for players to go in, just straight up submit an application. And yeah, it's is it's up to the communities themselves to moderate those pages. We're not going to go and check that your Discord invite is up to date or your website URL works. We just provide the tools for communities to advertise themselves.
Right. Yeah. Well, gotta kind of wrap this up here soon. So, is
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
anything else you want to put out there for the folks who are
Um,
listening?
yeah, if you are a Milsim player or a Milsim community owner and you have a wish list or a couple of things you'd like to see come into the Milsim space, I don't care what it is. If you think it could better the overall community or even just your specific community, reach out to us. Our Discord is discord.gg/milsim-io. Open a ticket or just message me, Flinty, and let's have a chat. Let's see what we can do about improving the services that we offer for Milsim players and communities alike.
All right, and we'll make sure to include the link to the Discord in the description on YouTube. That way, if anyone's watching or interested, they could go there, check it out, and see what it's all about. So, again, Flinty,
Cool.
I know you about 7, almost 8 o'clock your time, but appreciate you guys. Appreciate you taking time out of your evening to just go over a quick discussion on what Milsim IO is and whatnot. So we look forward to hearing from you again.
Yeah, and thank you for taking the time. I hope you have a great Sunday.
Yeah, I got enjoying a 4-day weekend, so I am very feeling good.
Yeah, nice 4 day weekend for me as well, actually. In fact, this will be my last weekend before I start a new job.
Oh shit! Have fun with that.
So, yeah. Oh, man, don't even.
But hey,
Hey, is that us wrapped up then?
again,
Is that us wrapped up?
very much we are